We are live.
Yes. Hello, Daniel. How are you?
Okay. Hello.
Good evening. Welcome to the show.
I almost had something witty. I almost had it, but it didn't materialize in time.
Man, the writers' room is really falling short here. The opening monologues suck.
They're sit-
It's Wednesday night. This should be the podcast, episode 21, 9:30 p.m., and we're ready to talk. Ooh.
If you're listening for our drive time traffic update, where I-40's got a little bit of a slowdown, go there by exit 278, but there's a little bit of some looky-loos and a car accident there, but there's nothing really major to be worried about.
Ooh, looky loose. That's good. Wednesday night, day late.
Yeah.
Life gets in the way. You know what? So this is
First
free
day
and
of-
no one
first day of
watches.
fall.
Was it today or yesterday?
I think it was today.
Oh, good to know. That's nice.
Yeah.
It's still warm. Whatever.
Not a minute. Yeah, it's humid. It's like a swamp. Feels like Charleston.
Yeah, it was pretty funky today. Next couple of days is supposed to be nice, though. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's true.
Very good. So next week, no show. I have to travel for a family funeral, so I'll be gone all next week. So
Right on.
that I don't have a way to do it live somewhere else. It would be terrible. Just put on my cell phone, just like hold it up.
Yeah, that would be a little weird.
Yeah, it wouldn't be very good. It wouldn't be good. So we'll just pass on and do another week. Be good.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
Dude, 21 of these shows and a couple more. We'll have done half a year's worth of shows. That's pretty week wise.
What's today? The 21st, the 22nd.
22nd.
Had we done this yesterday, it would have been episode 21 on the 21st day of the month in the 21st year, 21st century.
Wow. We shit the bed on that one. That's okay.
Just missed it. When?
We
just
did.
now.
Just now. Oh, wow. That sucks. Oh, that's funny. Oh, crazy. Good to know. I
Yeah.
didn't see anybody post like 21 stuff yesterday.
Yeah, not much.
Yeah. People. There's not.
Yeah, I had the idea that I've been like working on like doing like an EP of like some instrumental songs, and I've been like just kind of working on my spare time. And then I had the idea the other day. I was like, oh, wait a second. It would really be a missed opportunity if I didn't release this on 2/22/22.
Oh,
So that it
yeah.
was like all twos. So it's like, all right, well, I got to get cracking if I'm going to finish this thing by February. But
Now I got it. Hey, it's good. You got a goal. This will work. Something to shoot for.
yeah, what's really important is to set goals for yourself and milestones so that you can get,
Hey, it's true, man. Yeah, everybody likes to feel important. Okay, it's good to be on track. Meandering's bad, you know.
you got
I'm
reach
I'm meandering
beyond
right-
your grasp.
just jump, and that will appear. This is it. Get your inner Tony Robbins and all that jazz. That'd be good.
He's like, sell me this pen. Or no, that's the Wolf of Wall Street guy. Never mind.
It's all the same shit. It's the same thing. That's funny.
Anyway,
Right. So you want to talk about how futile it is to talk about what we talk about?
yeah, I'm interested in your thoughts on that.
Well, I'm of two minds. So it came up the other day in like another group chat. We were just sending some stuff back and forth about whatever's in the news. And one dude's like, I don't know how you guys follow all this stuff. I just kind of generally ignore it. And it makes my life way happier. I was like, I cannot argue with that. I really can't. I can see why unplugging from the news, from the media, from current events is a blissful thing to do. And I support those that do it wholeheartedly. I, on the other hand, enjoy, it's just my personal view, being involved, at least being knowledgeable, knowing what's going on. I dig the drama. I see like politics and culture as like a sporting event, and I saw that that's really like a very terrible point of view. I realize that, but like that's kind of how I see it. Like I enjoy sadistically, I think, like following it and analyzing it and listening to people. I don't know why. I do. I dig it. I've taken time away from it, and I've been fine taking time away from it. But I kind of found that I was missing it, so I would like start dabbling back and like listening to news and politics and philosophy stuff again. And I was just really starting to dig it, and I like it. So hence we generally talk about this kind of stuff. So it's something I like to do. It's a good. I think it's a worthwhile endeavor, but I see both points of view where it can be a negative and a drawback, and I think the positives are harder to come by than the negatives. The negatives are more transparent and more easily fallen into, I think.
Yeah.
Discuss.
Solid points all around.
Yeah, that was a very overarching. I'm sure we can get into more details, but
yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, I think back to times when I wasn't engaged with world events, or even like, not necessarily world events, but like just things going on in the news. And I guess, yeah, I kind of blissfully ignored a lot of stuff, like I pretty much I didn't really follow much of what was going on for pretty much the entirety of like the Obama administration.
sure.
And so I don't know. I won't say I was happier because I was in a whole different place in life. And so
Yeah,
the thing that keeps me coming back to it, though, because I'm with you, though, because I mean, I have to take breaks, like, because I spend a lot of time in the car. And so it's very easy to just like catch up on things while I'm in the car, because it's like,
yeah,
oh, here's this, these people that I tend to agree with, and they're going to talk about what's going on, or these other people, or even more so, listening to people that I don't agree with and hearing all their crazy takes. And then I'm coming up with all this stuff that I want to say to them and stuff like that. And then, like,
arguing in the shower with them in your head.
yeah, like in the car, just like, well, hit pause. It's like, look, you're a problem. So,
Yeah, right.
and then some days I have to catch myself. I'm like driving to work and I'm getting all mad and I'm thinking about, and I was like, hold on, I'm just gonna like go over to a different part of YouTube and listen to like, people who are talking about philosophy or history, or like
Yeah.
people doing like audio engineering secrets of Mutt Lang, something like that. That's like a whole different brain space. And I do find myself happier on those days, except for the fact that I guess what I come back to is like, just because I'm not pondering it doesn't mean that it's not happening.
Correct.
Right. And so that means that I'm even less, not necessarily informed, but like almost like armed to when
Yeah.
these, topics of conversation and concepts come up. If I'm not informed, then nobody has any reason to listen to me. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like it's sort of like my responsibility as like a functional adult to like know what's going on, but also like, because there's a possibility that I might be wrong, right? So like if I have opinions about something and I'm just going along, not really paying attention to what's going on, but I know what I think, I know how I vote and how I believe. It's like, if I'm not clued in, then the possibility that something might be going on might just totally pass me by. That might change my opinion or might give me, you know what I mean? So it's almost like it's a weird sort of responsibility, but it's tricky because it doesn't actually make you overall happier. I mean, I suppose in some ways it does, because it's like a lot of the happiness that I do have, even when I'm in periods like this week, I've been in a crappy mood all week for a variety of reasons, but it's like, even in periods of life when I'm overall happier, I credit a lot of that to the fact that I've had to do a lot of soul searching about like concepts and philosophies and what I think about like people and their free will and like morality and all this kind of stuff. So processing what is happening in the world is a vehicle to do that. It's how I learn. It's how you learn about life and how you understand how people work, and the type of stuff that we talk about. It's like, how do we interact with our fellow man or woman without being a jerk?
Right.
And it's like, I don't want to lose that, but I don't know. It's like going to the gym and then you come home and you're sore. It's like, I guess that was a net good. Not that I'm not a person who goes to the gym, but like, it's like, yeah, okay. I realize that was a good thing, but I'm not really feeling great right now. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's probably fair to say it's a responsibility of sorts. But then again, I would shrug away from saying you're irresponsible if you decide to step away.
Yeah,
From
I wouldn't take it
not,
that far, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think it's a good thing to obviously to be aware, to be able to discuss things with people around you, to know what's going on, and then like, I think it's a healthy realization that a lot of what you are learning about, you can take to heart, you can understand, you can channel it into personal relationships and the way you run your life, the way you run your affairs, the way you run your family, the way you interact with people around you. It's good to know that what you're understanding and how you interact probably won't make much of a difference, like on a macro scale.
Yeah.
So like we like especially on like a
If we can help just one person,
right. So helping one person is great, but like understanding that like you're not going to change the world and the trajectory of the country. And like a lot of people talk in those terms, like we need to do this, we need to take action, we need to blah, 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 blah. Generally, you're not going to really be a part of that and make a big stink and make a big change in the world. So when you, I mean, I guess it's possible. I mean, anything's possible, but where it's detrimental, I think, is when you take that to heart and then you get discouraged and then you get angry and you get bitter and then you then allow that to flow through you and affect other things in your life. So that's kind of the pitfall I think I would see. Because another person said something one day or recently where I actually think it was in our chat. We dropped it and the other guy's like, I got enough negativity going on right now. I'm not even going to open that freaking link.
Oh,
I was like, no. And
no, that was me who posted that video, and that was you who said that.
Did I say that?
Or maybe it was Jeremy.
Oh,
it might
I
have been
can't
Jeremy.
remember. But like,
no, it was the video of the people forcing the toddler to wear
the
the mask and the toddlers. And I'm just sitting at home watching this. And I'm just getting all mad.
Yeah, I know. I can tell you were very upset. See, I had already seen that, and I was already angry.
Type.
But like, I can resonate when people say that, and I almost feel bad for like when if I offer that up, they're like, I don't even want to see that crap. Keep it away from me. Like, oh, fair enough. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's not something to apologize for. When you're in a group of people who are generally self-aware, it's understood that, like, look, at any time somebody might bring up something that's rough, and then everybody else has the free license to be like, okay, I don't want to dismiss what you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
but
I'm having a real big problem in my relationship or whatever, and the other person's like, okay, I'm not going to be dismissive. However, I'm also in a meeting, so I'm not being a dick. You know, so
I'm muting this conversation. I can't handle 700 text right now.
Yeah.
No. I'm just saying. I feel the weight of that when someone's just like, I don't even want to look at it. I'm like, oh, yep, no, I get that. Sorry. Yeah, no worries. But
yeah.
I, on the other hand, will almost watch anything you send me. So just so you know, I am a glutton for punishment. So, but yeah, it's just I don't know. It's tough, man, because like some people think, or I've thought in the past that like the more you know, the more you can get involved, and the more you can really change things. And you can change things, just only in a very limited sphere. Like you have more influence in a very small sphere than you do on the larger scale of the nation, kind of thing. And when you listen to like big national issues and big conversations in the culture, it's easy to get discouraged and it's easy to get downtrodden. It's easy to go, I can't do anything now. And like, you just get angry and bitter. And I think a ton of people fall into that trap because it's really one person is rarely going to change the course of a culture. Like that's just the numbers game.
Yeah. I mean, the vast majority of people do not.
Will not. Yeah. The vast majority of people will not be remembered throughout history for anything. And like you have like your family and your immediate family and a couple generations, and then that's it. Not to be like really pessimistic here. Once you're dead, you're dead. You're gone.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding, but it's true. I mean, think about it. Like,
yeah.
You know, what's your great grandparents' name? No idea, but they were very important to many people in their lives, but they're gone. And like, it's just how time marches on. So.
Yeah. But I mean, maybe that's also maybe the silver lining.
Yep.
Like a radical acceptance of that fact. I mean, we are still hugely important to the people in our lives. Right. Yeah. So I think you would agree that if we had to choose somebody in the world to influence, it would be our children. And so maybe they don't necessarily know what's going on when they're like, under the age of 10 and stuff like that. But, we as parents being armed with a sort of understanding of how the world works, that's only going to come out in the way that we, help them deal with stuff.
Uh-huh.
And so, especially when they start growing up and they start dealing with, real problems. So,
Right.
That's worthwhile, and they pick up more than we think,
Oh, yeah,
'cause
I bet,
I think
for
I think
sure.
about that with, like Levi's 13, he's getting up into that age where he's,
He's
we
gonna
talk-
really start, absorbing a bunch of stuff.
well,
and,
I mean,
really,
he already knows a lot, like, he's interested in like history and like wars, and like how stuff went down. And so like, I don't make any bones about talking to him about certain things like, well, yeah, that's the hard part about freedom is that people are free to do bad things, and like,
Yep.
I mean, it's like, so, because I'm thinking about like what was going on when like we were 13, it'd be like Bill Clinton scandals,
Yep.
like that kind of stuff. Like, it was funny. I was thinking about this the other day. Like, there's a it's not a documentary. It's like it's like American Crime Story. It's the story of the whole Bill Clinton Lewinsky thing, and I'm only like a couple episodes into it. It's on like Hulu or something. Anyway,
Is it
started watching
do I
it.
watch it? I've seen commercials for it. Or,
The acting is pretty good. And it fills in like I just remember like via osmosis, like being in the car with my parents listening to Rush Limbaugh, like picking up that side of like what was going on.
yeah.
And like I vaguely had an idea of like who Linda Tripp was and like some of this stuff, but it was slowly starting to come back to me, and I had to like pause and be like,
It looks like John Goodman, right? That's my understanding. Yeah, yes. also, my gaps are filled in by SNL skits in that era.
right.
Sadly.
To this day, I don't know what Janet Reno looks like. I only know what Will Ferrell looks like when he's dressed as Janet Reno.
It's eerily close,
Scarily similar. Yeah.
It's not far off, but yeah. Sorry. Back to it.
So anyway, like I was thinking about like, and because I was watching it with Shayla and we were having discussions about like how, her being in a whole different political environment in the 90s, there was a lot of like, well, we're not really going to get into all the horrible details of Bill Clinton because he's on our team, right? But then where I lived, and where we lived, it was all like every sort of detail about Bill Clinton's lives we got to put on the front page because it shows how,
Yep.
And so it's like, it's hilarious to me how this is maybe a whole branch topic, but it's an example of like, it's hilarious to me how like so many of the people in the 90s who were like, character matters. We cannot have somebody in the Oval Office who, is a philanderer and a dishonest person, blah, 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 blah. And then like, fast forward 20 years and they're all like, God has anointed Donald Trump to lead this nation. It's just like, people, come on. Could you be any more hypocritical? Or vice versa, right? And, it's just like, it's about policy. Policy is what matters. And a person's personal life is, and then they get 20 years later and they're like, Orange Man bad. And so,
yeah. Like, what a disgusting human being it is.
but that was an example of like, I was trying to talk to Levi a little bit about that, like, and I'm not necessarily I don't want to tell him what to think, right? But like, I would more be interested in like, well, how does he think? Like the idea that like you can have a person who thinks like you do in government who might be terrible. I mean, like, because there are a lot of terrible people. We're all terrible in our own ways. And then like you could have somebody who you really like, but like you have to be able to admit that maybe they're wrong about something.
Right.
And they get just, I mean, I don't remember having that kind of thought process when I was 13. It was always like, we're on the good team,
Yeah.
So I think there is value in thinking about well, doing it the right way. Right. I think
Right.
like what you were saying earlier about like the drama of it. There is an easy tendency that it could all just turn into reality TV. Right. So it's like, whatever. We talked about it before, like the whole like small minds discuss people, average minds discuss events, and good minds discuss, I don't know, like it was ideas or something like that.
Something like that. Whatever
So-
we talked about. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's like, I don't know if it's like Eleanor Roosevelt or somebody said that, like, but it's like the idea that like, yeah, what is going on does matter.
Yeah.
But like, if all you're caring about is just like, it's like, oh, okay, well, there's the Access Hollywood version of what's going on. What's it they say? Like Washington is basically Hollywood for ugly people. I don't know who said that.
Yeah.
They were
Showbiz
smart.
for ugly people. I think it was Rush Limbaugh. Showbiz for ugly people.
Maybe it's like Hunter S. Thompson or one of those people. But that's a good point, right? So it's like some people get
Be
caught
really
up
mad
in
if
the
I
like.
was mixing those up. Sorry.
So it's like there's a degree to where the ins and outs, like the day to day, like, oh, there's the updates on this person said this, they're a liar, and it's nice when somebody that you don't like gets outed as a liar, Fauci, and so it's like, but that's only useful insofar as it's a springboard to talk about bigger things, and
Yeah.
maybe that's the problem that like your average, whether it's Joe Sixpack working in a factory or it's some blue checked Clintonista on Twitter, like. People don't take it the
Yeah.
next step to discuss, like, well, what's the root idea of here? Why are we in conflict with one another?
Yep.
People don't necessarily take it that far.
Or even like just if you're gonna argue, to understand the other person's argument, and like, I don't know, like where it's weird when like your political stuff gets overly pushed into your personal life, and I'm really guilty of this myself, where like it can affect your relationships and your friendships and stuff. I mean, not even necessarily like tangential friendships, but like people that you're actually close with, or your family,
Yeah.
like when people like family members are that have split over political stuff, and that seems bonkers to me. Like, I don't know. It's just if your ideas about the way the political sphere and the landscape is rolling, and the cultural landscape bleed into your personal life so much that you can't have relationships with people that you are supposed to care about. Maybe that, and not you saying like you always have to care about everybody. I mean, it's just I'm talking in really generalities here. I just hear people like, well, my ex-husband, blah blah blah. I was like, whatever, that's all different stuff. But like, I don't know, man, to take it to the level to again, because I don't think you can really control much on the macro.
Yeah.
And when it starts to control your micro, that's bad. And a lot of times that bleeds over into relationships. It bleeds over into your own sanity, and that's a super negative spot to be in.
Yeah.
And like, I just know people that have family relationships that are really strained, that shouldn't be, over a freaking president. Jeez, who gives a shit? Like,
Yeah.
really, like in 20 years, like think about it. Like think about 20 years. Like so if someone's just like, I don't talk to your grandmother anymore. Like, what was that about? It's like, oh, Nixon. And you're like, it's 2021. What do you give a shit about Nixon for? Be like, oh, it was rough. You don't understand, dude. She voted for Nixon. Like, okay, well,
Yeah.
that's you. That's all on you at that point, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
And
true.
you can really dislike Richard Nixon. You can have all those thoughts, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Compartmentalizing is very important here in this conversation, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, I think it really is just about like how evolved are we willing to be as people?
But sorry, before you get into that,
Okay.
now like in history, you'd be like, well, grandma supported Hitler. You're like, okay, that's rough. All right, I get that.
That might be a bridge too far.
No, but still, right? I mean that. Oh yeah, like in reality, but like, and then like, so here's what happens though. Here's the switch. You'd be like, Donald Trump is Hitler. So if you voted for Donald Trump, you voted for Hitler. So therefore, I am a good person by cutting you, the Hitler supporter, out of my life. So like,
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess that person sounds like an idiot, but
well, okay, no, but that's what I'm saying. But so like, there's the grain of truth. Like, okay, you're a Nazi supporting literal party member in 1930s Germany. Yeah, no, I get it. You should be probably tried for war crimes. You're out of the family. We're not bros anymore. But like, that's such a rare example. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I guess it's one of these things where we kind of have to like lead by example a little bit, where
Yeah,
it's
maybe.
like,
Sure.
I'm the kind of person that I'm like, say somebody believes something differently or like has different opinions about it. Like if they're not being a dick about it, like I'm like, all right, it's cool. And I'm fine with, some people are like, like in some like family situations, it's like, look, we're not going to talk about, and then like this topic or that topic. And there's a degree to where I actually really get that, because it's like, look,
Yeah.
we're all get together like twice a year. We've
Yeah.
got 48 hours from Thanksgiving to the Black Friday. Like, why are we going to sit here?
We're trying to be cool. Yeah, right.
Like, let's
Why
have
waste it?
quality time with like, aunts and uncles and grandparents and kids and stuff like that. All, I mean, I totally get that.
Yeah.
However, the people that we disagree with, to me, like you and I are the kind of person that like, well, those might be the people that we could learn the most from. Like that's kind of fun, right? But not everybody sees it that way. And I have to like remember that like, a lot good portion of us take our identity from like our beliefs and our team membership and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
unless you're going to have a certain amount of time to really parse out the nuances of like all that kind of stuff, it may be kind of counterproductive. But like, yeah, it's tricky, right? Like, I'm the kind of, like I said, I think we sort of lead by example. If we demonstrate that there's room in our worldview for people who disagree, almost like a sort of a gentle, they're like, oh yeah, like I think the example, like, so like Shayla and I, like, we have never voted the same way. I don't think if you ever correlated any election, we'd never probably voted for any of the same people. But we get along great. Our relationship is fantastic. And I think the reason for that is because there's enough space in her mind for the idea that, like, well, wait a second. I think Dan's a great person. But, okay, but if I think that anybody who votes differently is a terrible person, then how does that work? That can't work.
How do you square that circle?
And so, I mean, the main thing is that because she's a very sweet person who loves people, right? And I'm not as sweet as she is. Like, I'm more of a sort of thinker, logical person. But like, I'm the kind of person who thinks like, well, I know her to be a wonderful person, and I can't possibly think that somebody who votes differently is a terrible person. And so, it's like we both serve as the reminder that the other side can actually have some legitimate points.
Yeah.
So, and there's enough space in the world for both. But, I guess, like I said, I think unless the other person wants to make it weird first, like that's on them. So, like if I'm say I'm at a family reunion, there's like some person who's like wants to start talking some crap. I'm like, oh, okay, well, yeah, whatever. That sounds crazy. I'm not gonna go like seek out like who all disagrees with me.
Let's take a poll.
Get out. Like I don't need that. Like I'm not that insecure. Yeah. I mean, I'm probably insecure in other ways. I'm not trying to talk like I'm some sort of saint, but like, everybody's just searching for belonging and meaning, and some people find it in ostracizing people who are different than they are.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily a bad thing to find a, because I remember when I first started getting really interested in politics, and then first started getting really interested in like libertarian philosophy and stuff. Like those are like wormholes you go down to, then you kind of absorb it and you go, this is it. This is what I believe. This is great. And then like you kind of own it, and then you kind of bristle when somebody pushes back on it. I get all that. The social media thing makes it worse. Like talking in text is not good. When you're in person, it's a little bit easier to really talk stuff out. Like I've rarely had like huge blow ups, like person to person arguing with people. It's all been online. Like the vast majority of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like conversations are fine, but like it gets very heated very quickly in those kind of forums. So like, and I'm not good at that. I was never good at that. I'm still not good at that. So I do my best to stay away from that. It's not my strong point. I'm not very subtle, and I'm not very whatever. I don't come across as a nice person online. I get that. So, but like, I honestly don't think I am that person as a person. I really do try to like, as I would rather just discuss things with people and like understand their point of view and try to really explain like my overarching point of view and why I think they should think the way I think. If you want to, and if you don't, that's fine. And like, if we have a relationship outside of that, we have common interests and common shared goals and values in other areas. Great. Let's focus on that. But we can still talk about those kind of things. Not that everybody wants to, not that everybody needs to, but that is kind of how it, I think, is the ideal. And, yeah, I don't know. I think, whatever it's a tough thing to navigate when you're kind of in that not healthy spot, which I think, and I don't even mean like maybe just not unself-aware. You're not that self-aware. It's not even that I guess it is unhealthy, but I'm not trying to sound like I'm healthy and I got it, because I don't.
Yeah.
This is what I'm working towards.
But
you know what I mean?
Though.
Yeah, I am self-aware enough to know that I am not good at this.
Knowing is
in a lot
half
of
the
ways.
battle.
That's right. G.I. Joe. Or
Yeah,
like
I mean,
those He-Man memes. Like He-Man just says something, then runs out the side. Skeletor. The little PSAs. Those are great. The PSAs at the end of cartoons were amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I love it when you see like GI Joe. They would be like blowing up tanks, and there's like helicopters flying everywhere. And then the little tag at the end of the episode was like some kid at a high school, and then like the other kid was like, "Hey, do you want to try some pot?" And the other kid's like, "I heard that was bad." And then like GI Joe just walks into the halls of the
Yeah.
high school. He's like, "And now you know."
I literally thought of this the other day. We were driving through something and we were talking. Gosh, I don't know why we were talking in the car about power lines being down and it's dangerous or something. And the kids are like, Sally's like, well, what would you do if you saw a power line that were down? Kids are like, well, I would just stay away from it. I wouldn't touch it. I was just like, that's what Snake from G.I. Joe said, or like Snake Eyes. Like he came out and like he's like, don't touch that, kids. And like he gets like a thing and like pulls it off to the side to like, oh, you can electricity will run through your body and kill you. You call the authorities. I was like, Snake Eyes, he saved the day. Sorry, it's so stupid. It was just a random ass memory from when I was 6. It's just funny.
Yeah.
Ah,
What were we talking about? Oh,
I don't remember. Damn it.
well, okay. So like self-awareness and stuff. I mean, it's no surprise that like most people, this is not a skill that's taught to most of us. I mean, think about the number of look at the average, the lifespan of your average church in a town. What's the likelihood that church is at some point going to split into 2 churches? You know what I mean? Or you're going to have some mass exodus. Well, we decided we don't like the way that guitar sounds, so we're going to go to this church over, you know what I mean? Or like
It's a very transient community at times. Yeah.
yeah, or or like the people inside various political parties can't all get along. I mean, look at primaries. Political primaries are a great example. You get like, here's 8 old white men who want to be a Republican president. And then when they're in a debate stage, they all think everybody else is terrible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, but then as soon as one of them wins, then it's like, oh, we're all just sycophants for this dude. And now it's everybody else that's terrible. It's like, wait a minute. I mean, you could, or like case in point, it's like the things that Kamala Harris said about Joe Biden a year ago.
He's a segregationist, man. He's a racist segregationist. And she's proud to be his VP.
So,
Yes, correct.
So
Yeah, right.
we made it 31 minutes, 32 minutes into this without mentioning Joe Biden.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So like, if you're the kind of person who like breaks a relationship or like is standoff, you're in reasonably good company, right? Because pretty much everybody does that, I guess was the point I was trying to make.
And and it's not that there's not times to maybe break a relationship. I mean, that's not inappropriate. I'm not saying that. And like it, I mean, not that I think it's harder though, obviously the more the more intimate the relationship. Like I think it would be really, I don't know. I don't see it a ton, and I just know some family members that have issues. I know people that have family issues that are all politically divided and stuff, and that's the sad thing, man. I don't get that. But like close family, like brothers, sisters, dads, mom, not dads and moms, like dads and parents. It's just weird, man. Like if you spend all day watching like combat media, like talking heads screaming at each other, and that's your political news and that's your political environment, I can see why you're automatically, when someone disagrees, you'd be like, I'm on the offense here. I'm going to destroy you, you libtard, or I'm going to destroy you, you white supremacist Nancy. Like I get it, but like that's not real life, man. Like those kind of situations those are just clickbait. So you gotta get outside of that.
Yeah,
so,
we're all just feeding into other people's algorithms.
Right. And like Twitter's a lot like that too. And like I try not to read a million comments and stuff on Twitter. I like reading a good Twitter beef every now and again, but like I'm not that into it. I try not to be.
Yeah.
Which I think that's probably wise, but those kind of forums lend themselves to those kind of interactions, which aren't real life, but you can easily translate that to real life. And when you do, you're doing it wrong. That's not right. You shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do that. And that's a negative drawback from being super involved in this stuff and super immersed in it. That's where it's really easy to screw things up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like, it's like, imagine what all the arguing, imagine what it reads like to somebody who doesn't know the ins and outs or doesn't have a stake in the game, where it's like if you say, if I'm scrolling through and I see like a couple of girls arguing about like The Bachelor or something like that. And I'm just like, I don't really care or have any knowledge about this or like know what's going on, but it's just like, and I'm just reading through like, well, there was, and I'm just like, what? I will
never watch The Bachelor is what I'm getting from this.
Well, I mean, hopefully that's a given, but like,
No, but like if you were on the fence and you're like, oh, this is awful. No, that's a really good point.
but it's like, but I have to imagine, and I'm not shitting on people who watch The Bachelor. I'm like, whatever, you do your thing, it's fine. But like, I have to imagine that that's what people look at when they see, like, if they saw me arguing about something, and like, you know, and so I guess maybe that's the lesson to take away is that, like, okay, are you using, like, we all think in our head we're talking about things that are important concepts, right? That have world shattering ramifications, and some of them do, and some of them don't, probably. But it's like, it's easy to let that sort of inflated sense of self importance maybe creep in, and I don't know, just make it.
No, yeah, totally. I think that's right. I mean, it's a big ass world out there, and like your sphere of interests are pretty. It's a pretty small slice in the grand scheme of things. So there's enough people for you to share those things with, but there's a huge amount of people that are just looking at you going, "What the hell are you talking about, man? Like, what is the point of all that? Like, why do you spend so much time and energy?" And brain, like your bandwidth and your emotional bandwidth, and it's just crazy. I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing I come back to, and I think, like, I remember, like, back a few years ago, which we don't have to get into a whole rabbit hole, but like when I was having significant issues in my marriage, I remember talking to, and I forget which therapist it was talking. I don't even remember if it was a group thing or if it was a one-on-one thing, but it was like, and I think we've talked about this too, where it's like, once you can tell like who cares more by like who pulls their punches more a little bit when you're getting like in an argument, where it's like, okay, well, what is your goal here? If you're arguing to win against a person, like, is that actually your goal, or is your goal to like fix the relationship? Because if you do, if and that informs how you look at it, right? And I found that like one of the reasons I was always losing arguments, not necessarily losing per se, like I may have had good points or not, but it's like I wasn't getting the result I wanted, was because I cared more about, my goal was different than the other person's, right? My goal was to like convince, and that wasn't a shared goal. So it's like carrying that over to like conversations with people. It's like, there's a different way that you're going to argue with a person if you're actually trying to convince them of how you think, versus trying to win in an argument that's like that there's other people watching.
Yeah.
So I think, like, you can kind of tell the people who do this, right? Like, so people who are like, okay, like they might be talking about some sort of topic. Maybe it's terribly unimportant, or maybe it's terribly important. And then one person says something, and then you're like, oh, I got a bunch of stuff to say to that. You can kind of tell like a lot about the person by the way they respond. Do they recognize the humanity, and maybe there's some grains of truth in what the person is saying, and try to establish a little bit of common ground and go, okay, well, sounds like you're coming at it from this angle, and like okay, well, I respect that. However, we're coming at it from here, and then I think because this and this and this and this, I don't know, what do you think? Like, that's a person who's actually maybe invested in maybe trying to convince another person, as a person who's like, I don't know who this total stranger is, but they made A, B, and C errors, and so I've got D, E, and F answers for those errors. Like, nobody gets convinced that way. But then if it's like a public forum, then all of a sudden, that they get that zinger, and then they get like some likes on that comment, and they're like, all right, people are looking at me for wisdom here. I guess, it's an awesome responsibility, And so like, and I'm not going to act like I haven't done that in the past, but I've had to think about that and be like, okay, was I just trying to like make myself feel good for articulating myself well, or was I actually trying to engage that person in a real conversation?
Yeah.
I
think so like at certain points you don't always have to engage somebody in a conversation. You can just throw something back at it. I mean, it depends on the relationship, I guess. The best one though is the grammar Nazi. It's just like, no, I think you mean there, THERE, and you put THE. Yeah. So therefore, your whole argument is null and void because you're typing on your phone, like with fat ass thumbs, and it auto corrected to the wrong grammatical version of a word. But that's the uber asshole version of I'm just here to snark and make a point, as opposed to converse and possibly change your mind, or to,
Yeah.
to hopefully move the needle a little bit one way or the other. But
Yeah, I've thought about that in terms of like and I'm trying to get better at this, like posting things online where I have an opinion that people need to know, you know what I mean? And like I find myself being like wanting to like post certain things with like my little commentary attached to it. And then there's that one part of me that's like, but I don't have the bandwidth for an argument today.
yeah,
So I'm just gonna like either not. Well, the sneaky version is like I'm just gonna like set the privacy settings so that certain people I know that are inevitably gonna argue with me or cause problems can't see it. And I'm like, is that just me being a coward? Because it's like what that means is that I want to get the accolades from people that I agree with telling me that I articulated that criticism of the Biden administration well. But I'm not willing to embrace and face on the counterpoints.
yeah.
So I've basically decided, okay, anytime that I find myself wanting to do that, it's probably because I'm insecure about my opinion. And I should probably just, type, delete. This is what I do a lot of times.
yeah, get it off your chest a little bit. I mean, but like one thing you can do is that you can just resolve not to comment after. Say, I'm gonna post something because I want to say it, and
I'm just going to leave this right here. Is that what you're saying?
then no, don't even say that. I mean, but you're not obligated to comment back. I mean, you can turn off notifications.
Yeah, but the problem is that somebody brings up some points and you're like, no, now it's a matter of I demand satisfaction.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, that's a you problem though. You don't have to.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. I don't know. I've done that a few times. Just like, you know what? I posted that, or I've left a comment on another thread. I'm just like, I know what's gonna happen here. I'm just gonna not respond to that. Just not read that shit. That's not good.
Yeah.
And just leave it alone. Check it back in a few days, and after a few days, you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. I mean, the thing's over. You don't feel the obligation to respond back 3 days later.
Yeah,
it's fine. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not that you have to do that. I mean, and it's also probably wise if you're like, I don't want to get into an argument right now. The world doesn't need to know my thought. Who cares? It's not that big of a deal. We will survive as.
But there is definitely the temptation because sometimes when you scroll through things, it feels like so many people who are like educated and that run businesses and that have families, and then you just watch the things that the opinions and the viewpoints that they're regurgitating. It's like, you as a person who and I'm not trying to toot my horn, but it's like in my head, I've got like, I feel like there are key points that this person needs to think about.
Yeah.
And who will tell them if it is not I? You know what I mean? It's like,
I will shout it from the mountain. Hey, look, keep doing that, Dan. I live vicariously through your Facebook and your arguments. I don't comment very often. I read a lot of them. And like, I want to comment. And every now and again,
you want to have fun. Scroll. I don't even know how this started showing up in my algorithm, but like the White House's Facebook page, like just will randomly be like suggested for you. And it'll be like, something that Joe Biden says. And I'm like, all right, this is going to be interesting. And I start scrolling through it. And so this was a question I had because there's like millions of comments, right? But when I click on show comments, all the comments are negative.
Yeah.
And I'm like, does Facebook know that I don't like this person? And therefore they're only showing me comments that I would probably agree with?
Yeah.
Or are there millions of comments in this thread that are maybe like, doing a great job, keep going? And like,
I love you, Joe.
Yeah, part of me thinks like, well, scrolling through like this is clearly evidence that like nobody does. I mean, is anybody defending what's going on here? This is clearly a shit show.
Yeah, that's a scary question.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the algorithm just feeding me that stuff.
I know that's scary. I don't like that. I don't even want to go down there. Right? No, it's fine. We can't. But yeah, no, I don't know because like I don't know what relevant like it defaults to relevant comments. What? How does it know what's a relevant freaking comment?
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
I mean, maybe it's just trying to filter out trolls and like advertisements for like male vitality pills and stuff like that. But whatever,
right?
Which I don't get in my feed. I don't know why anyone would think those are.
I don't get those either. I don't get those, but what I do get is advertisements for T-shirts.
Actually, my profile doesn't say anything about me being married. I get millions of dating apps.
I get those too.
Because I'm just like, okay.
No, but I get a lot of T-shirt ads. I guess because they just feel like guys between the ages of 30 and 40,
Buy
like
some t-shirts.
statistically where it's hard because most people are overweight and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I get so many ads for like, I found the perfect t-shirt for me as a dad bod. And like the guy is clearly like, he looks like John Stamos. And like, you don't need a new t-shirt, man. You're fine.
Yeah, there's
Like,
one of them.
you're not going to turn Kevin James into like Chris Hemsworth with a t-shirt.
Well, there are those. They're like, look at this. This t-shirt hides your beer gut. I'm like, no, it doesn't.
And it goes like,
doesn't at
whoosh,
all.
and it's like clearly
Like-
a different person.
I guess it fits you better, but you're still a fat slobby bastard. And like, I can relate to that because I'm a fat slobby bastard. I was like, no t-shirts hiding this. Like, I gotta lose some weight. I know how it goes. T-shirts aren't doing it. $40 t-shirt ain't gonna make me look skinny. Sorry, ain't a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so algorithms. No, I
Yeah.
don't trust those things. And
I don't
I
trust
don't
them
know.
either.
I think you probably are getting fed that. So and it's a weird time to navigate all that crap.
But I do have a certain number of people that like, maybe they're like people I know through music or whatever that I engage with. Therefore, what they post shows up, and I'll see stuff, and it'll be like, I'm like, oh, this is interesting, and I'll start clicking through, and I'm just like, are these people like watching the same events? Like, how do these people have these opinions on things?
Right.
You know, like
I've,
it's just
yeah,
it's
go ahead.
crazy. Like, you know, all these Republicans, you know, they're all refusing the vaccines. It's like, well,
They're not.
yeah,
Like, not necessarily. Like, some of them are. Yeah, whatever. I started actually on the advice of one of my buddies who doesn't necessarily, he kind of on the outskirts of this follows a little bit. He's like, I have Instagram, and all I do on Instagram is non-serious stuff that I like goofy things that are like my hobbies, stuff that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And I don't put any serious shit into that. I was like, ooh, that's a good idea. So I started an Instagram account and just started following some fun stuff. Just if I'm gonna scroll mindlessly through those things, let's give my heart a break.
yeah.
My anxiety a little rest.
Almost all of the Instagram people that I follow are just all meme accounts. So I don't really follow a lot of public figures and like people who are going to start talking about stuff because the
Yeah.
way that it filters, you can't really have conversations there. I mean,
Right.
Facebook, for better or worse, is a much more verbose, you know. So
For worse, maybe.
probably for worse. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's oh gosh, man. Like one of these times, like I had this dude where I had a long history with arguing with this guy, and like he just kept like popping up and sniping on conversations I was on with. I guess it was probably mutual friends because we weren't friends on Facebook. So you can just like you can connect. Sometimes like they're reading through a comment thing, they see you and they can comment back. Like everything he would say to me was just a freaking insult, and then like. And like after like 6 months of it, after random ones, like maybe one a month, I was just like, I am freaking done listening to this guy. And I was just like, later. And like I just blocked him on like everything I could possibly block him on. And like I don't think I've ever done that. I went across all my social media platforms. I was like, gone, gone. I don't want anything to do with it. Because like we hadn't talked like personally in years. And then he pops up all of a sudden. And like when he sees me, he's just like, oh, great comment there, asshole. See, you haven't changed in about 7 years. Oh, just like you. I was like, oh my God, dude, just relax. Let it go. Like, I don't even know why you're so mad. I don't remember why we stopped talking. Like, but now I remember I don't like you. But like, I mean, that's like that's one of those relationships you don't have to be part of. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
but that's a sucky thing because like you're taking this even that you're taking a slight friendship, like you had a little bit in common, and just like I'm gonna badger this thing to death, like and just destroy it totally over whatever. I don't know.
Sox rule.
Well, I'll go to the mat if you're a Yankees fan.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
I started to come up with well, maybe it doesn't work, but like, have you been following or aware of the Gabby Petito story?
only actually Sally knew more about it than I did. She was like, "Look at this girl. It's like, what's happening to her?" She's like, "She looks stoned out of her mind." I was like, "Oh, well, maybe I don't know." Yeah. So basically the gist of it was her and her fiance or boyfriend went on a trip across the country, YouTubed it, like updates and stuff.
Yeah.
And she was found dead, and her boyfriend is gone.
That was I mean, that's where it is now. But like,
Right.
in the
Oh,
interim,
well, fill me in. You know,
well,
no,
I'm not an expert. I just only saw some of this sort of tangentially. But my point of bringing it up was that the people that were in my circle, for the most, not all of them, but for the most part, it's like there are people who are not following current events. Like they're not engaging in like this is what the White House is doing, you know what I mean, or like this is what House Republican. They're not going on that.
Yeah.
But they will post updates anytime something about like this chick comes out.
That girl.
Like,
Yeah.
and if you scroll through their feeds, it's like everything else about is just like, you know, interpersonal drama and just like people be talking. And it's just like, you know, like they're clearly using. So it's like, it's that sort of level of vibrational energy. But for some reason, this story resonated with people. And it was just, yeah, basically the story was like, yeah, there was this chick and her fiance, and that they were going on like going out west doing a road trip and, you know, like blogging about it and stuff, which at first glance, you're like, oh, that sounds awesome.
Sounds fun.
But like at one point, like she went dark on her social media, and then there was like some new posts that like didn't have a location tag, and people thought, all right, what's going on? And then like what happened was like he showed up at his parents' house in Florida by himself, and she was nowhere to be found. And then her family was like, hey, well, where's she at? And the guy was like, well, I'm not saying anything. And then he would hide out, and his parents were like helping him hide. And then like, so there was like a whole search, and then eventually, so it was like all this speculation and stuff that was going on. People were like dissecting all the social media posts and stuff like that. People thinking that like he was texting from her phone or something like that. And then like a couple days ago, they found like, they didn't say body, they said human remains, which is interesting because it was like the Grand Tetons National Park, which is hilarious.
What? Sorry.
Well, the phrase Grand Tetons National Park is always funny to me.
Oh, okay. All right, sure. Okay.
No,
I was
but
like, wait a minute. What am I? I was like, whoop, over my head.
No, okay. So like, and then he went missing or whatever. And so the FBI is like, they don't want to say that he's a person of interest because that'll probably scare him away. They're just like, no, he's missing too. But clearly he's like a suspect in like her. So it's this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's this whole kind of slightly interesting story of like, you know, it's just weird that he would just like show up. Like, what did you think was going to happen? You know?
Yeah.
Like, it's a young white girl. Like, that's going to be all over the news. Right. So, and people don't know if it's like one of these things where like maybe they had an argument and like maybe they got mad and like she fell off a cliff or something like that. And he's like, oh crap, this is going to look bad. Right. So he had to hide it instead of calling the authorities and stuff.
Yeah, because it would seem strange to purposely murder somebody you're vlogging across the country with, like with a bunch of followers and stuff
in the middle of the wilderness.
Yeah,
you know, it's like there's an obvious like digital paper trail. So that wasn't the reason I brought it up. The reason I brought it up was that like the type of it was I don't know. It's just like there's a certain vibrational energy of like the type of people that I've seen who are like
I pick up on that and
following all of the you know what I mean. It's like. You know, it's the type of thing. It's like in the 90s when OJ was on trial. He's like, he's an athlete. He killed his wife. Like that is not, sadly, that is not the first time that's happened. Or maybe not an athlete, but like a famous person, right? It's like an LA murder that does happen. But for some reason, this one particular event just captivated a nation.
Do you remember the one of those that really stung out to me, and I had family members that were super into it? It was Natalie Holloway, the girl that went down to Bermuda or Aruba. She went to Aruba.
I've never heard of this.
She was on like a school trip. She was like a high school kid on a school trip in Aruba. Partied with some local Dutch dudes. Ended up missing, and they never found her. They never found her. The guy that was the chief suspect ended up not getting charged, if I remember correctly. But then he got in trouble for something else. He ended up in like an Argentinian prison, and I think he's dead.
Oh,
but
wow.
but there was this big thing where like. They didn't know if it was accidental or they actually murdered her, but like, you know, she was partying in Aruba as like a 16 or 17-year-old with a bunch of like Dutch naturalists that were down there, like aristocratic, like really royalty kind of kids. And it was this whole big thing. It was like this pretty blonde girl. It was like one of those things. It was exactly the same kind of template.
What was the name of the girl? John Benet Ramsey.
The little girl, the those creepy fashion things for kids. Another one was
that was that. Yeah,
that was the little girl. Lacey Peterson was another one.
That sounds familiar.
That was like I think she was up in the northwest, and like her husband ended up. What's her face? Gosh, wow, these people are crazy. Blocked. Well played. See, just block those guys. But like, they're back. It's pretty good. Persistence. Okay. Yeah. Oh, they really have swastikas in their Avatar. That's not good. You don't want that. But it's like
is there a swastika emoji? Like who came up with that?
no, but John Benet Ramsey was the little girl that was in like those like fashion shows. When she was, like, 4.
That's coming back to me now.
Yeah, that's its own level of different creepy. But yeah, whatever. And like I did see, not that I never thought about, not that I thought about it or I don't think about it, but like someone's like, oh, another white woman gone, and the media obsesses over her. I'm just like, well, I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
Are there 0 instances of black people disappearing? Maybe. I don't know. Never given any thought. Maybe that's part of my. That's why I'm part of the systematic racism in this country. I only care about. Actually, I don't care about the white women that disappeared. Like insofar as I don't obsess over it. It's sad when it happens.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't want anyone to disappear and die. That's bad.
Yeah.
Regardless of your skin color or your genitalia, it's bad.
Yeah, people who are more knowledgeable about psychology and stuff could probably write than you and I could probably write papers about like what is it that triggers a national news story versus other stories. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I mean you could make a cynical case and be like, oh, it's all about narrative, right? So it's like a black man gets killed in an altercation with police. That's immediately national news, right? But like,
counterpoint. Good point. Sorry, go ahead.
So I don't know. I'm not necessarily trying to make a statement. It would be interesting to compare and contrast like the treatment of like when you have a particular like political movement, right, which needs focus on certain events. What is the rationale behind focusing on Gabby Petito? Like, is there a narrative there, or do they just know that like, middle class white people who are really into social media will identify with this person, and therefore they'll be very interested in the story? Yeah. Or is it as simple as the fact that the story is slightly unusual and it's strange? Like, I'll admit, like I heard about it tangentially from other people. I'm like, oh, that is actually relatively interesting. Like just the strangeness of the guy just showing up at his house. Like he didn't seem like a murderer necessarily. Like it's mildly interesting. They'll probably make a TV movie about it with a colon in the middle.
I was gonna say, if this was a Netflix documentary, I would watch it. Sounds good. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's an interesting comparison though. You got like pretty white girl disappears, makes national news. That's a template. Black person gets shot by a cop, seemingly for no reason. That's a template. They both sell pretty damn good, and they both get pushed pretty hard when it happens. It's just interesting. That's all.
Yeah, but a random kid.
I draw no conclusions. Sorry.
Yeah, random, murders that happen all over the country.
Yeah, right.
Why are they not national news?
Yeah, agreed. Or random disappearances of people every day. Yeah, I don't know. But then maybe that plays back into our original stuff. Like, should you be absorbed in that? Is it good, negative, positive? Is there a positive of knowing about that chick?
There's a morbid curiosity. I mean, think about the proliferation of like serial killer shows.
Oh yeah. So morbid curiosity is good. I wouldn't say, I would at both say there's a neutral point. I don't know if there's anything good about knowing it. Like, I guess other than just being informed in general.
I think
it's like the Lindbergh baby. Come on. What?
I think we're 100 years removed from that, so it's like kind of interesting in historical context. But like,
yeah, for sure.
So I mean, I watched Dexter. Like
I've watched it like 3 times. It's great.
It kind of goes off the rails after about the first 3 or 4.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, I really literally think that the finale of Dexter was one of the worst episodes of TV I've ever seen. It was like, that was even worse than the resolution of Lost. I was just like, this was horrible.
The ending of Weeds was better. Worse. Ever watch that?
I never watched it, but that's good to know.
Yeah, watch it and then just be prepared to be angry.
So like,
and Lost, yeah, same. But either.
So like, and Silence of the Lambs. That's a great movie. Mm-hmm. There's a psychological interest of like how people work, and it's legitimately fascinating when you have like people who are like, something's fundamentally broken in their head, whether it's via pathology or trauma or whatever. Like, but at a certain point though, it's like, what is it about it that we like so much? You know what I mean? Like, I remember thinking this like back in the day, like, used to watch a lot of like Law and Order, or I would watch like Special Victims Unit, which it was a great show. I liked it because I thought it was
I
interesting.
know.
The characters were really good. Like, and then
It's a well-made show.
yeah, and then like the way that you would have these cops, and I don't know how realistic it is, like if that's what real cop life is like, but the way that the cases would affect the cops felt believable to me, and it felt like it did like justice to the concept. In comparison to a show like Criminal Minds, I don't know if you've ever watched that, but I watched it.
I'm
for a
aware
while.
of it. Yep.
It felt almost cheap because it
Yeah.
dealt with like, and granted, I mean these are like FBI agents and they're investigating serial killers and stuff, but like every episode was so formulaic. They'd be like, "We're going after this person. He's already murdered 15 people," and then they go to some area and they're like tracking this person down, and they just casually talk about the most heinous things. You know, there's
Yeah.
like there's murder and rape and just like and pedophilia and all this kind of like horrific stuff, and then they catch the person dies, and then at the end of the episode, it's like, "Oh, so." I'm making my homemade spaghetti at my house on Saturday. Let's do it, you know. And they want you to like identify with these characters. But like, no, this is not believable. These characters would be
Right.
fucked in the head if they had to deal with this all day. And it almost felt like, even though the lightheartedness of the show actually made me more depressed, because it just like it treated this like weird psychosexual murderous tendencies like as like just sort of a throwaway thing. Whereas Law and Order, because it was much more dramatic, it made me like feel like, yeah, that's a legitimate human emotion to have about these things. And I felt like more of a person. So I bring up those two examples as to like, we have this weird obsession with like crime and serial killers and stuff. And I'm like, there's no way that doesn't like eventually seep through the cracks. Right. I mean, maybe that would be like the ultimate example of like, you know, you watch like we've been talking about, you watch politics and the news and you're like, oh, these people, they don't understand how rights work and blah, blah, blah. It's like, at what point are we doing ourselves a disservice?
Yeah.
You know, that's the question.
Interesting.
Because I mean, I find serial killers as interesting as the next person. Well, maybe not the next person, but like, I understand why people get into it. But it's a rabbit hole, and there's no way that like spending all of your time like, oh, I'm going on a road trip, and you're spending 4 hours listening to like true crime podcasts about this person who did these horrible things, and like, well, you know, Ed Gein did this, you know, in the 1950s, and like, oh, well, Jeffrey Dahmer, his whole thing was blah, 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 blah. Like, there's no way, you know what I mean? Like actual doctors and psychologists who deal with this stuff, like they have like programs and their own psychologists.
Yeah.
You know,
Maybe there's an interesting little parallel there. It'd be like, if you're watching serial killer stuff, it's like it's a or like a human interest story where like this girl disappears. Just like, what happened? Like, I can't believe this. Like, how could this have happened? What's going on with that guy? Who would have done this? Who in their right mind? How would this go? But like, also, like when we're talking, like you're following politics and you're following like societal and cultural stuff, you're just like, what the hell has happened? How do you think that? How are you going through that? What is going through your mind? Like, it's kind of the same thing. Like, you're just like, I watch, listen, and read in disbelief every day. I'm just like, how is this a thing? How are you doing that? How are you squaring that circle? How are you thinking about that? Like, how are you, again, Jeffrey Dahmer being Jeffrey Dahmer? Like, I'm not saying people I disagree with politically or Jeffrey Dahmer, but like, it's the same kind of it's kind of a morbid curiosity, maybe to a little bit of a degree. Like, I don't know. It's just weird. Sorry, just when you were talking about that, just kind of hit me. Just thinking through that. I never really thought that thought before, but here it is. Thought I'd just spit it out.
yeah,
Why not?
Yeah, that's
And not that
tricky.
and like you could to some degree go, yeah, great. Let me learn about that a little bit. Let me dig more into that. Let me figure that out, or see if I see any of myself in that and correct those behaviors. I don't want to like chop anyone
that's
up.
not
and
what
eat
that's
any
not
people.
what most people do.
No, that's not. But like, I think the morbid curiosity of it might be a good parallel. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, think about
Because like, there's nothing edifying about watching stuff about like, John Wayne Gacy. You're just like, oh, okay. It's like, you're just like, this is horrible, and this is just feeding my base horrible instincts to watch this stuff.
Yeah.
But also just knowing about it's okay.
Yeah,
So, like,
I'm guilty of a little bit of that. Like I've, I follow the sort of biographics YouTube channel that's always talking about, like, they'll talk about like, here's a biography of Adolf Eichmann or somebody, the architect of the Holocaust, and like then there's the whole story about how the Jews went and like the Mossad guys and they went and captured him in Argentina and all this kind of stuff. I'm like,
yep.
Like I get into that historical stuff, and the worst people of history tend to be some of the most interesting ones, unfortunately.
Sure.
But there's also your Gandhis, that's true. I don't know. I think it's like, yeah, I guess you learn about people,
Yeah.
What I mean, it's like something that Jordan Peterson used to say, where he was like, everybody, I don't even know what the context was, but he was like everybody needs to understand that, like, before you start talking about world events, understand that if you were in Germany in the 1930s, statistically, you would have been on the side of the Nazis.
Yep.
So it's like none of us are special. Okay. Most of us just go along with the crowd. So it's easy from our positions of comfort and historical, like 2020 hindsight, to be like, everybody back then was horrible. But like, understand that like most of us go with whatever the zeitgeist is. So don't forget to recognize the humanity, even of people who are on the side that you abhor, And like I've said that before, like I think about that anytime I watch like war movies, like I think about like just a random German soldier walking across and just, getting blown up, and in the context of the movie, you're glad that person gets blown up because they're the bad guy. But I find myself like, when I'm sitting around at like 11:45 at night, like, man, what's the backstory on that guy? You know what I mean? Like in the movie, there's no backstory. He's just random stunt person, with a prosthetic arm that gets blown off. But like in the imagine that story was real.
Yeah.
No,
I remember playing like Call of Duty like 2. Like it's like the one with like you like it starts off and like you're on the beach in Normandy. Storming the beach. And like you're playing the game and the whole game is just going through and like killing Nazis. And there's like, is this game sold in Germany? Wouldn't that be weird? Like, I don't think it is, or maybe it is. I don't know.
That's that's a wonderful question. I wonder.
You know what I mean? Like, how would you? It's totally on the same lines. Where it's like, man, the dude on the other side, or is just a kid that got drafted. He got sent to a line, and he's throwing bullets where they tell him to throw bullets, and he's running into machine gun fire where they tell him. Right? It's just awful. Yeah, no, it's just
this is why Doom is the best game ever,
because you're killing like satanic,
it's demons, like these weird, demonic, crazy monster things. They're like that have no redeeming soul qualities. So it's like you're okay just slaughtering hordes. Yeah. I actually found that to be like that was actually a news article when one of the last Doom games came out like a couple years ago, and like people were like, "What do you think about like the level of violence in this game? Is it weird for like teenagers to watch?" And the person was like, yeah, for the record, you don't kill any humans in the entire game. Like there's no people. None of these people have parents that you're exploding. Like this is literally just like a giant monster with like an eye for a head. You know what I mean? And you're just exploding. And it's like and I think that was their defense. It's like this game is like way less disturbing than something like Grand Theft Auto or even like Call of Duty, where you're like, oh look, I'm a soldier, but you're blowing up all of these people with Arab sounding names. And it's like,
I'm gonna snipe in and literally blow your eyeball out with a rifle. Freaking Grand Theft Auto's terrible. Like it was like I'm gonna go beat up a hooker. Like
I never played any of those. I always wondered about that.
I played one of them. I don't remember. It wasn't that much fun. It was fun driving around. I never actually played it like deep, but whatever. Video games, I only like a very small. I'm a Nintendo guy. I like Nintendo games, like classic. I just stick with the Nintendo lines. That's my thing.
OG Tetris.
All of it. I like playing Tetris. It's on my phone.
I found out that's an old Russian folk tune.
Is it?
Yeah, like because the guy who created Tetris was Russian. It was like the late 80s. And apparently he just took some like sort of public domain old Russian folk tune. We're like, doing all the stuff. Like, he just took that and put it in as the Tetris song, and then it became this like worldwide thing that everybody knows.
It works perfectly.
Yeah,
it really does. All right, we're over an hour. I think we've beaten this one to death.
We covered a lot of ground.
I'm pretty tired.
Had a few laughs.
Changed a few lives. Got a good. Nope, not at all. Got a good traffic report in early. That's good. I-40 still in. What's the word? It's not dreadlocks. Deadlock.
Yeah,
It's in deadlock.
we got some looky loos over by exit
they got
278.
looky loos with some dreadlocks over there. Some Rastas on the side of the road.
It always makes me laugh. Because as a person who likes to look at maps, sometimes I just like, it could be like 1 a.m. or like middle of the afternoon, and I'll look and I'll pull up the Google Maps and I'll look at I-95 near DC. It's always red.
It's still always red.
Like that is my least favorite road on the planet, and it's just like no matter what time of day, it's red on I-95. It's like at what point are they going to build another road?
Nope, never. Yeah, I gotta drive all the way up to New Hampshire. So I'm gonna like slog it in one ride. I'm gonna get up at like 3 a.m, 18 hours, chikadoosh, up there, and just hopefully not hit traffic. But we're gonna leave on a Sunday, so I should be okay.
Oh yeah, I see. I always have to go up there. Like I'm going up there on the 1st, and I have to go up there on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, and if you any beltways around like 3 hours of any rush hour is just brutal.
It's
brutal.
Fredericksburg. That's that bottleneck, right?
Yeah, that's where it starts. Yeah. So like I go to if I go visit my sister, we get off right at Fredericksburg and start doing side roads up to the side, to like the west. Because you could go all the way up to like DC, go west on like 66 or something like that.
Yeah, I've done that
But,
a couple
like,
times.
But it's traffic nightmare. It's not even roulette. It's a guarantee. It's just terrible. So
even in the middle of the night.
apparently.
I've definitely had situations where it was like I'm trying to get up there to a gig, and they'd be like, "Oh, did you make it through traffic?" I'm like, if I physically make it through, and Shayla has not broken up with me by the time we make it through this traffic jam, then that is a win. Because I just get in there and I'm just like, and I just
So
you
that
can just
all
see the
sucks.
steam coming out of my ears.
Every road aside, South Carolina is the worst highway ever. It's 95 the whole way, and it's 2 lanes.
Yeah,
If there's a piece of trash on the side of the road, everyone stops for 12 miles. It's terrible. Just because it's 2 lanes.
yeah, pretty much.
They couldn't expand that out to freaking 3. Like at any point.
And they
It's
have
2
so
lanes.
much space. Like there's
Yeah,
there's
the
300
highways.
yards between the like
There
northbound
is.
and southbound. They
You could put
easily
4 more
add
lanes
another-
in the median. In the median, you could put 3 other lanes. It's aggravating. I hate South
Yeah.
Carolina. So is what it is. But either way.
Yeah.
So next week, no show. Week after that, back at it.
All right, I'm down.
All right. Cool, man.
All right.
Well, we'll get back to the outro here because I wasn't paying attention and planning on that. But here we
Cool.
go.
All right.
Later. Witty banter.